Welcome to episode number 4 of the Retro Gaming Roundtable. I'm Joel with the Poor Man's Retro Game Room, and today we have the other members of the Roundtable. We'll start with Jason from Kinda Cool, the Kinda Cool YouTube channel. We've got Mark from the Dad Racer YouTube channel, and we've got Lyndon from Old School Games and Stories Dual Wielding Light Guns today. That's pretty awesome. All right, so today's topic is sequels that rock and sequels that don't. So we're going to be talking about that here in just a minute, but we did incorporate something from our last episode. We all did some shout outs for YouTube channels. You guys responded to that very well. We got a lot of comments saying thanks for some other channels that, giving us other channels to watch. So we're going to do that. We're going to do it in a lightning round way, and we're going to do that first. So I'm going to start out with my YouTube shout out today, and it is for Ron Man Gaming. I have just discovered his channel. Does some excellent stuff on NES, Super NES, and he just posted a N64 top 10 video that I guarantee you does not match any other N64 top 10 videos you've seen. That's my shout out. Jason from Kinda Cool, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. My shout out's going to be One More Quarter. And it's a channel I've been watching a lot lately. And I know some of the guys here on the channel have been watching as well. And if you're like me and you have this kind of tick or kind of quirk to like watch games that are one credit completes or one life playthroughs with no deaths, you're going to love this channel because I would say he actually kind of specializes in that. And it's not all he does, but that's where I find myself watching the most videos. He's actually kind of branched out. He's been doing some regular playthroughs as well. And lately, he's been doing some stuff like two-player co-op stuff with his wife with Golden Axe and Golden Axe 2. Cool. So there's a lot of good stuff to be seen there. So go over there and check out One More Quarter. Take a look and see what you think. What about you, Mark? You been watching anything, Dad Racer?
Yeah, my shout out today is for Jordy Slasher Gaming, our friend from across the pond. I've really been enjoying his videos lately. He's been doing a lot of pickup videos. He did a game room tour that I really enjoyed. And since I've been getting into the Genesis a bit, I really enjoyed, he did like a 2 or 3 part series of his Mega Drive collection, of course. He's across the pond. So I found that very, very interesting, educational, and I was able to take notes on what I should be on the lookout for. So Jordy Slasher Gaming, highly recommend his channel. Check him out. How about you, Lyndon?
Well, I got one here. It's a channel called Big Old Words. And I know some of you guys have seen him on here too. Yeah. He does a lot of NES stuff. So I like that. And he has a series going that's called Games No One Played. Yep. And he does a lot of narrative with his videos explaining the good and the bad. And he's going to make you laugh. So I like that too. So go check that guy out. It's Big Old Words. And that's the name of his channel. So back to you, Joe, man.
Yeah, great shout outs, guys. I watch each and every one of those channels. So excellent, man. Really good shout outs. All right. So we are going to kind of start with our games that rock. And I'm going to throw this over to Kinda Cool. And he's going to kind of explain the criteria that we're going by and give us his pick for his game that rocks. And we're just going to go around the horn. So, Jason?
Yeah, thanks, Joel. So basically, we kind of came together and discussed what we were going to kind of consider for a sequel that rocked versus a sequel that didn't. And basically what we looked at is we tried to kind of keep it in the family of a 1 versus 2, but we didn't necessarily hold anybody to that. But basically we said, hey, what is a sequel that actually did something better than the original to the point where you actually might consider it a better game than the original? And if so, that'd be a good criteria for determining a sequel that rocked. And for a sequel that did not, it was basically the opposite of that. What did it do wrong that the sequel did right? So much so to where it was a worse game than the original, and that would be a sequel that did not rock. And that was basically it. We kept it a little open-ended. We had some rules. I mean, basically we said there were some no-brainers out there that were floating around, like, nobody was going to throw out Mega Man 2 over Mega Man 1. Those are givens, and nobody wants to hear about those anymore. We wanted to do something a little bit unique and different for all of our choices. And I think we've probably hopefully got some pretty good ones here. We'll see. I think I like mine, so we'll see how it goes. But cool. With that being said, those were the rules. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my sequel that rocked. And my choice was Revenge of Shinobi on the Sega Genesis. And so we talked a little bit about this. I actually brought this up with the team. You might be saying, wait a minute, though. Isn't Shadow Dancer the sequel to to Shinobi in the arcade. And it is and it isn't, right? And there were actually two sequels in a sense. One of them was going to be Shadow Dancer, but Shadow Dancer is actually kind of a splinter off from the Shinobi franchise, which allowed for some flexibility for them to actually do a continuation of Joe Musashi, which is the lead ninja there in Shinobi, to actually go do Revenge of Shinobi, along with the baddies that you fight against, which is, I think, Zed and Neoseed is kind of the criminal organization. So anyway, it works and it fits the criteria, right? So Revenge of Shinobi is my sequel that rocks, and we'll kind of talk about some of the reasons why I liked it. But Shinobi the Arcade was released in 1987, and it was a game that I really liked. I really enjoyed that one. Great graphics, great sound, great music. It introduced this ability for your main character, the ninja, to kind of jump back and forth between planes, the front and the background planes. And it kind of opened up a new element. It might have been done in other games, but I think it was done really well in Shinobi. So that was one thing that was really cool. It was a super fast-paced game. It never let you blink. There was always an enemy coming around the corner ready to kill you. It was just a great arcade game, and I really liked it. Revenge of Shinobi was released in late 1989. It was kind of released to boost the still fledgling Sega Genesis at the time. And it was the rare instance of a home console game that was played host to a sequel to an arcade game, so it was unique in that sense. The controls are pretty simple, and it actually tried to follow what was going on with Shinobi Arcade. Basically, you got a button for a shuriken or a melee weapon, then you got a button for jump, and you got a weapon for ninja magic, right? So it kind of, if it wasn't broke, it didn't try to fix it there. But it actually did improve that in a sense, because it actually brought some new ninja magic to the table that the original Shinobi Arcade did not have. You had the ability to kind of turn yourself invincible. You could clear the screen with some fire. You could clear the screen, like basically sabotaging one of your lives. You could increase your jumping abilities, right? So that was something that was unique that was done over the arcade. So that was neat. And if you look at some of the sounds and graphics on Revenge of Shinobi, they didn't quite always match that kind of lightning pace speed that the arcade had. I mean, the arcade hardware was still a little bit up on the Sega Genesis at the time, but it wasn't a deal breaker or anything like that. It was still good enough to be an enjoyable experience. It did some unique things, right? So we talked about the improved on the ninja magic. I would say that the actual soundtrack, there were some hummable tracks in the arcade version of Shinobi, but nothing like what was going on in Revenge of Shinobi. I mean, that was probably an all-time top 5 soundtrack on the Sega Genesis, and that really kind of stood on its own. Let's see, what's an impressive combination of great music, gameplay, graphics, and sound. The arcade, I think was probably one of those ones that probably could have been, probably not considered a great arcade, but it was beatable. And I think that the Genesis game actually came in and actually did one of those rare feats where it actually did better than the arcade version did. And I would say that probably one of my top sequels that rock was Revenge of Shinobi over the arcade version of Shinobi. And one more thing to note on this one, this is a nostalgia free for me because I didn't actually have a Sega Genesis. I was a Super Nintendo guy, but it was one of the games that I was really, really jealous about. And I was really excited to get my hands on it. And as a retro gamer, when I first got my Sega Genesis, it was one of the first games I picked. And I probably just spent 2 months straight playing Revenge of Shinobi, to the point where I actually, talking about one more quarter earlier, I actually decided that I was like, man, I'm going to just bone up and beat this game on one life. And I finally did. And it's not an easy game. Revenge of Shinobi is not an easy game, but it's one of those games that keeps you coming back for more. And I actually really didn't mind putting in the time to kind of figure out a way to one life complete this game. So Revenge of Shinobi, it's my sequel that rocked.
Nice.
So Mark, awesome. What do you got for a sequel that rocked?
That was a good review, I got to say. Well, my sequel that rocked is Double Dragon 2 for the NES. Late 80s release, I believe, 1989, follow up to Double Dragon, of course. So what are the things that this did differently than the original Double Dragon on the NES? Oh, well, you have 2-player co-op. That's great. Super nostalgic for the game. I have a lot of memories playing it with my dad. We played through it many, many times with the Game Genie. Obviously, because I was like, 5 at the time or whatever. I couldn't, was I going to get through that by myself? No. Let's see. It's not an overpowering game. The difficulty is just the right pace. You can probably easily get through 4 or 5 stages. No problem. Of course, it is a tough game. But there's just a lot more going on, a lot more variety in the characters, the weapons, the enemies, the scenery, the music's fantastic. Overall, I just think that it has more replayability factor compared to the original Double Dragon. So I'm going to have to go with that as a game that went above and beyond the original. So that's my choice for a sequel that rocked. How about you, Lyndon?
Well, I've went the handheld route here. I'm going to go with Super Mario Land 2, the 6 golden coins. Now, the first one, it's not bad by any means, but it just really feels like a smaller, shorter version of the original Super Mario Brothers. And you can blow through this your first time playing it with just a little bit of time. But again, it's not bad, especially for the first portable Mario game. But then they give us this one, Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. This is more along the lines of Super Mario 3 and Super Mario World. It has a big overworld map. It has different regions you can go to. There's 6 different areas on this one, hence the name, 6 golden coins. You got to go to each area. Each area has a handful of stages plus a boss level. Beat the boss, you get the coin for that level. And like Super Mario World, this one has secret exits, hidden stages that you can't get to any other way. It has the spin jump, just like Super Mario World has, where you can break blocks. And it has that new power-up, the rabbit hat. When you jump, it does the, and you float down. Very similar to the raccoon tail in Mario 3 when you're floating down. You cannot take off and fly like that, but it does do the floating thing, which helps a lot on the platforming games. And this one, on the coins, you don't get extra lives by getting 100 coins. You gather coins to play little mini games, little slot machines and different things like that. And that gives you prizes where you can get extra wins. So that's a little different. And this is the first appearance of Wario. So, if you haven't played this one, and you don't want to give it time, because it's a handheld, you know, a lot of our fellow gamers, they don't want to mess with the handheld stuff. And I'm telling you, you're really missing out if you don't want to do that. Because there's other ways to play these. The Super Game Boy for the Super Nintendo, the Game Boy Player for the GameCube. I believe there is a version of this that you can download for the 3DS. I don't know about Switch or any of the other new stuff. I don't really keep up with all that. But this is a really good game you need to check out if you have not played it and you like Super Mario Brothers games. So that's my good sequel for the day. Joel, what you got over there, man?
Man, great picks. And I'm going to really change it up. I'm gonna throw the most modern game probably I've covered, I think, ever on my channel. So
cool.
Back in the day, it was kind of hard to have a game that had a lot of hype as a sequel and then actually have that game live up or exceed that hype. And the game that I'm going to choose today is that game. First of all, I love the original Halo. It was awesome. It was the killer app for the Xbox. It sold a lot of Xboxes in the States. When I saw Halo gameplay footage, I had to have an Xbox, period. So there was a little bit of hype for Halo 2. And, you know, somebody might have got a green Halo controller if they liked Halo. They might have got the guy, I don't know, you know. Might have got the collector's edition that has a few dings in it. So Halo 2 is my sequel that rocks. It is the first Halo game that you were able to go online, Xbox Live. Hook it up, man. Play some death matches. You could dual wield pistols, Lyndon. Yeah. It brought so much more to the table, and I love Halo. Halo is one of my all-time favorite games. But it took that bar and raised it. You got to fight on Earth for part of the game. They added in boss fights. And, you know, Halo, the original one, there was some bosses, but it was more getting through the level and, you know, escaping and surviving different situations. So Halo 2 really brought on that. They brought on some huge set pieces. What a fantastic experience, and a lot of of death matches and multiplayer. They expanded that, downloadable maps, all kinds of cool stuff. So yeah, Halo 2 is my sequel that rocks. All right, Jason.
Are we ready for sequels that don't?
We're ready for sequels that don't.
And I realized I totally forgot to put my Revenge of Shinobi out there as my prop, but out comes the EverDrive for my sequels that don't rock, right? So I've owned this game several times, but I've tried to trade it off every time I got it. So that tells you what I like about it. But Kari Warriors 2 Victory Road is my sequel that don't rock. Yeah. Man, okay, so I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, wait a minute now, Kari Warriors 1, that's not necessarily a great game. Yeah, I know it's not great, but it did what it needed to do. It was a Rambo-influenced top-down running game. And I have a lot of nostalgia for it, just so you know. So Christmas of '87, when I got my Nintendo Entertainment System, I only asked for one game to be under the tree with it, and that was Kari Warriors. That's how much I was into that game at the time. And I got it. And I liked it. It was a pretty good game. Like I said, it did what it needed to do. It's like a solid B-tier game. It's not going to be an A1, tier A1 game, but that's okay. Not all games have to be. That's all right. And it was missing some things. It didn't have the rotary joystick that the arcade had that made it such a pleasure to play. That was a big deal, and I got it. But I looked around that and I played the game. And I was excited to hear there was a sequel coming out about it, right? I was like, okay, Kari Warriors is set up well to succeed. If you can, tweak a few things here and there, it can be a tier A1 game, Boy, it missed the boat on that, man. It didn't do any of that, right? So trust me on this. Let's get into this right here. All right. So first of all, the sequel goes for something completely different with an overall plot of the game. It basically takes Paul and Vince. You can call them other things. I know if you're in the SNK continuity, they got a whole other thing. But we're calling them Paul and Vince because that's what they were in the US here at the time. Takes them literally out of the plane from the ride home from the Kari Warriors from the successful mission and drops them in a different dimension. I don't know, outer space, planet or something. I don't know. And some green guy named Zip Zang, yeah, that's his name, Zip Zang, is the major baddie, and you got to defeat him on some different planet. I don't know. So right off the bat, the military theme that made Kari Warriors the Kari Warriors is out the window. It's gone, right? They tried to implement something new for the NES version that wasn't even the arcade. Wasn't even the arcade version of Victory Road, and it was some sort of shop where basically the beating hearts of the creatures that you beat, you pick up and you use them as currency because I guess that's currency in this dimension or whatever. And anytime you go in one of these shops, it drags the game down to an absolute halt. It's like not what you want in an action top-down run and gun type of it doesn't work. It straight up doesn't work. The graphics on this game, they're not good. I mean, the sprites of the characters are a little bigger than the original, but all that does is highlight how clunky they look and move. It just doesn't work. And the color palette used on this game is basically this: green, red, and silver. That's it. I mean, it works for Christmas, right? It doesn't work for an action NES game, right? So it's very bland and just drab and boring looking. Controls on this game suck. I don't know, I know it didn't have the rotary controller in the first one, and they tried to improve that a little bit by make it to where you can hold down a button, right? And it sounds great on paper, but it doesn't work when you want it to half the time. So you end up, holding down the button when you don't need to. It just doesn't work. It's broken. Music here, not good either. It's really kind of pulling the trifecta for bad gameplay, graphics, and sound. And they try to do some sort of digitized voice in this one, and man, it strikes out bad. It's kind of like, come on, let's fight. And this is fun. And I hate to say it, Joel, I don't want to rub any salt in this one, but it's almost Genesis-like how gravelly it is. I'm going to give you a little jab there, because, Genesis, I love it, but you can have some gravelly sounding, voice effects. Basically, this game is this overall classic example of a bad sequel. It tries to turn the overall expectations of what the game is on its ear, and it just fails miserably. Pulling the military theme out, moving into space just didn't work. Everything they tried to do that was unique or different or new was either just a slight misstep or a complete failure, man. So this game is just a complete stinker. Even if you like Kari Warriors, pass on this one and go to 3. It's definitely better than this one, and it's my choice for sequels that don't rock. So that said, Mark, what do you got, man? You got a sequel that doesn't rock down there?
I do. Well, did you ever do your homework and you completed it, but you just didn't follow the directions properly? I think that's what I've done here. It's not actually a sequel. We're going to call this third installment, and we're going to stay within the Double Dragon series, and we're going to go with Double Dragon 3. The Sacred Stones, I believe it is. Yeah. And to accompany that, I made a little bit of a prop here. This is the Double Dragon NES timeline. Okay. This is timeline versus fun factor. you could see we have a peak in fun at Double Dragon 2, and then a steep decline all the way down to Double Dragon 3 there. You know, I probably should have spent more time thinking about what I was going to say about the game rather than making this prop. I probably milked about 6 hours out of the day working on that.
Well done.
So Double Dragon 3. It went backwards in multiple ways. First way, by the way, I didn't touch on this when I was talking about Double Dragon 2. The way you attack in Double Dragon 2 to go backwards now, you have a punch and a kick, but unlike most games where, say, A button is punch or B button is kick, they're directional. So if you're facing towards the enemy and you hit A, that's a punch. If you hit B, well, then you're kicking backwards. So instead of a punch and a kick, it's just a forward and backward attack. And that's off-putting to some people, but I kind of like it because, you know, you don't have to turn around before you attack. You've got both attacks at your disposal, front and back. So back to Double Dragon 3. Why did it go backwards? One reason is because they went back to the old way of doing your attacks. Punch and kick is A button and B button. It's not terrible. I mean, I'm fine with it in the original Double Dragon. So that's not the biggest offense at all. The biggest offense is, well, you got a combination of A, difficulty, and B, you've got one life. Sort of. I'll get into that. It's really tough to progress through the game. A lot of trial and error. I think, in my opinion, the difficulty in Double Dragon 2 is a little more ramps up steadily. Not to mention you've got multiple lives. Double Dragon 3, you've got your one life. That being said, along the way, you travel to different regions. You go from USA to China to Japan and I think Egypt later on. I think there's 5 regions or something like that. And along the way, I believe in China and Japan, you pick up additional characters. So that's sort of like your additional life. Where, you know, if you run out of life on one guy, they each have their own life bar. So it's sort of original Ninja Turtles game in that regard. However, it doesn't really work too well because oftentimes you're like a human, you know, ping pong ball in between 2 enemies getting bounced around. Your life meter goes down, 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 down. Now it's time for you to switch characters. You're still in between these 2 characters getting bounced back and forth, and it's a little bit unfair in my opinion. I don't know what else I could say about it. I think that's the biggest offense, you know, just the one life is a little too much. Sure. Definitely requires the Game Genie, and this is another one that my dad and I used to play growing up. Fun game if you have the Game Genie, but otherwise, not really. Just stick with Double Dragon 2. Yeah, that's my game that didn't rock. My sequel, my installment that didn't rock. How about you, Lyndon? Which one did you pick?
Well, I have here Tetris. Arguably the greatest puzzle game of all time. A Hall of Famer, as it should be. And then here we have Tetris II. Now, what's the point of Tetris? You make lines. The bricks fall, you got to spin them around, make them try to fit together as best you can. You want to form a line left to right within the confines of the board. You form a whole line. It disappears, gives you points, the bricks fall. If you can somehow be good enough to clear 4 lines at once, it is called a Tetris. Guess what you don't do in this game? Make lines. This is Dr. Mario, and not even a very good clone of it. Man, this game, they picked the ugliest color palette you could possibly imagine. The dull, muted blue, yellow, and red, same as Dr. Mario, except they're just ugly colors, weird things in the background. And then each block within the shape is a different color. And on the board are blinking blocks that you have to match up to and make them disappear, just like Dr. Mario. And the animation on this is jinky. When you try to spin it, it disappears for a second, and it's real sensitive. You might hit it twice and not even realize it, and it'll be spun around the wrong way. And on top of that, they've got the traditional Tetris shapes, but then they've got these new shapes that are not even connected. They're connected at the corners of the squares. And when it lands, this piece keeps falling, or this half of the piece keeps falling. It is so hard to plan out what you're going to do, like the other puzzle games, the other good ones like Tetris and Dr. Mario. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. Because even on the lowest level of speed, they fall too fast. You just can't quite think of it fast enough. You can get to about level 4 or 5, and it gets so hard and so convoluted with the shapes that come apart. It's not even worth playing. I don't know how you can stomach it long enough to actually get good at it. So don't waste your time with this. Just keep playing Tetris and Dr. Mario. And that is my sequel that does not rock. Stay away from it. So we're going to send it back to you, Joel.
All right. So if I had made a graph, which that was pretty impressive, mine would start up here, and then it would go down here, and then it would go up a little farther. This is a game that has excellent ideas behind it. What they wanted to do was awesome. The implementation of what they wanted to do was not. And I have no nostalgia for this game at all. So I've tried to play it. I had it for about 6 days, and then I sold the game. And yeah, I don't want to make anybody mad here, but I don't have the game, so it's on my classic. That's Castlevania II. The cryptic nature of what you do in Castlevania II basically was me running around, finding out that there's a day-night cycle, going back to town during night and still being attacked in town because it's the night cycle, not knowing where to go, what to do. I mean, I could not figure it out, first of all, and it just is not for me. I could never get into it, and I did not have the desire to stick it out and try to figure it out, and I wasn't going to go to the internet for a quick, guide and just whip through the game. Very good ideas. They wanted to kind of implement some RPG elements. They wanted to do some things in that game that they nailed later on, but not Castlevania II. That game frustrates me. I've tried and I can't. Nope. Castlevania II is my game that doesn't rock.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about games that rock, sequels that rock, and sequels that don't. So here comes the lightning round.
Always with the lightning round.
Always with the lightning round. Here's the quiz.
I'm not going first this time.
You know what? I'll go first this time because this is gonna be tough. I had a hard time thinking about it, and I was trying to think a couple of different ways to do it. So I'm gonna lay out a pretty easy criteria. So you got games, sequels that rock, sequels that don't. Is there a game that you love that never got a sequel? Or is there an IP that you love that that never made it to the next generation of that particular console? Does that make sense? So Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3 on the Sega Genesis. The Sega Saturn comes out. Was there a Streets of Rage on the Sega Saturn? Nope. Dreamcast? Nope. So that would be an IP that never, it's not till later. Now I've got it on the Switch, Streets of Rage 4, and it's amazing. But they kind of made a game that they should have made. So thinking about that, or you can think about a really good game that you love that didn't get a sequel. And So what do you think? So Jason?
Oh, I thought you said you were going to go first.
Well, I did.
Is it Streets of Rage?
I'll even do a game that didn't get a sequel. And people are going to think this is a little crazy. I was going to say Comic Zone, but did you know that it actually got a sequel? Yeah. There's a sequel.
I think I got one. I'm going to throw out there.
Okay.
And it's not really a game that I loved, but I did enjoy this game. And you didn't see, I know you saw some sequels later, but I'm going to go with Kid Icarus on the NES.
Okay.
So it felt like that one was set up for, if not a sequel on the NES itself, it should have maybe had one on Super Nintendo, but we didn't see one there. We didn't see one on N64. I think one of the portables later got one. I'm not sure exactly which one it was, but it took a long time. It was like you said, Joel, maybe not quite the wait between Streets of Rage, but it was quite a bit of time that you waited from Kid Icarus to the sequel that was on portable. I can't even recall it right now. So I'm going to put that one out there as mine. And again, not an all-time great for me. I did enjoy the game, but I was expecting to see a sequel. And I had friends that really enjoyed that game a whole lot that were waiting for a sequel too. It never came out. They just never came out. So anyway, I'm going to go Kid Icarus for mine. It's just pulling that out of thin air right now, right?
Yeah. And I'm totally putting your guys on the spot. So
yeah.
All right.
No homework was going on for this one at all.
No,
right?
No homework for this one. And I can burn about 30 more seconds. Or are you ready, Mark?
I mean, I can't mention Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu again, can I?
Yeah.
Why not?
I'm putting you on the spot, man. I'll let you mention it.
I mean, there's a few. I mean, I love it. What's the Mother 3? I mean, that's still just a regional thing, right? That comes to mind. That I think you can get a translation of, right? I don't know. That one certainly comes to mind as well. Ooh, it's tricky. It's tricky.
Joel, you're throwing out the heavy hitters today, man.
How about like Mike?
Around.
I was thinking like a Punch Out, like a sequel to Punch Out, but I know Super Punch Out's out there.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I thought about it a lot. There was a game on the Genesis that I really loved, never got a sequel. And there's probably 2 or 3 you can name on the Genesis if you're a Genesis guy, because it seemed like they didn't. But Kid Chameleon would have been kind of cool to see a sequel to that.
I feel like a lot of those games that needed a sequel on the Genesis, they were too busy messing around with building the 32X and all that other stuff,
right?
When they could have really just been messing with some of their own internal IPs and doing those right, and
instead of putting a Golden Axe fighting game on the Saturn, could have done a legitimate side-scrolling beat 'em up.
True. Hey, you know what though? I don't hate on that game because that game's actually not terrible. I know it's not in the, it's not in the same vein as the originals, but there's some things to like there in that game. So
there is.
It's definitely a beautiful game.
Stuff.
It's a beautiful looking game.
It is, but it's just wasn't. Streets of Rage.
It wasn't what everybody was expecting when you said when you heard you were going to get a Golden Axe on the Saturn, right?
It's on the Saturn, a proper Sonic game too. So I mean, there's several things that you could. All right, Lyndon, you got any ideas?
I got one.
That'll work.
I love Crystalis.
Oh, good.
That is one of my favorite.
That's a good game.
For the NES, and it never got a sequel. With all the great action RPGs and turn-based RPGs for the Super Nintendo that was made, how did Crystalis not get picked up by somebody else and remade?
Yeah.
That would have been awesome.
That's a good one for sure. Yeah.
Lyndon, I think you may have just won the lightning round.
Yeah, I think you did.
I think you did, man. Wow, that's a good pick. That didn't even cross my mind. That's good. Any more that you guys want to throw out there?
I used all my luck up with that one.
Yeah,
that's a mic drop moment for you today, right?
That was, dude. Just drop it. And
I'm just going to chat about, I want to talk about what we talked about with the sequels while if anybody's thinking of some, extra ideas here, but it was a great choice for the Double Dragon 2 pick. I'm so glad that it showed up because that was a classic example of a sequel that came back and repaired the sins of the original. And they just did it so well. And I was so impressed by that one. And you couldn't have said it better about what you said about Double Dragon 2, or even what you said about Double Dragon 3. I'm right there with you for that one too, because it did really kind of follow that arc that you drew out right there. But man, props for bringing that one up. That was really good.
Really Yeah, thanks. There was things I liked about the original Double Dragon. Like, do you remember it didn't have co-op play, but it had like one-on-one fighting. Yeah. But do you remember you had to be the same character? You would just like pick a character, then you'd fight.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, two of Bobo
and Linda and stuff.
Yeah,
I remember
that.
Yeah.
That was strange. But
it was
at the time you're like, whoa, this is awesome.
Well, it looked kind of cool because the sprites were very large then. You remember for that particular mode, it's like, wow, they looked really cool. But
yeah, it gave the characters in the actual game, like it gave them more definition. So you're like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
There was two examples, really good examples of, because back in the day, the arcade was king. You know, games that you brought home usually were missing things. They couldn't match that arcade hardware. Double Dragon 2 is better than, in my opinion, than the original arcade game. And Shinobi, The Revenge of Shinobi, better than the Shinobi arcade game. So two really good examples there. Another good example of a game like that would be Ninja Gaiden. I like it better on the NES than I do on the original arcade. I don't know if you guys ever played it.
Yeah, the arcade's more of a beat 'em up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just different, you know. And I really think they did a better job with the NES version, you know. So
I know a sequel you would have liked to have, Joel, is POW, right?
Yeah, I almost thought about that one because they could have made some really good improvements to that. Added, of course, 2-player co-op would have been great.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. And especially going like to next generations of consoles. Can you imagine some of those games like POW 2 on the Super NES? That would have been that would have been kind of cool. So yeah, there's some really good examples there too.
I guess there's no Rad Racer on the Super Nintendo, right? That went away.
That's true. Yeah. There's a Rad Racer 2.
Right. Yeah. And Lyndon, you were saying that I've never played it, but you would think a channel with this kind of name would have been familiar with Rad Racer 2, but nope. So you were recommending it though, yeah. So
yes, you'll like it. It's more of the same.
Yeah,
that might qualify as an overlooked game. You know, I don't hear about Rad Racer 2.
Right.
So, all right, man. So I think we had a pretty good discussion. Yeah. Guys brought the thunder today. We had
good stuff.
Visual aids. That's that was pretty impressive. So yeah, I think we're going to wrap it up. Make sure that you guys do yourself a favor, go over to Kinda Cool's YouTube channel and check him out. He's got some good stuff there. Dad Racer just has some, all these guys have some really quality videos. Old school gaming stories is a lot of fun. I'm still kind of getting through your back catalog of videos, and all you guys you've been doing a really great job. Good pickup video, Jason, and it's been cool. So
not as good as yours, Joel, but I'm trying to hang in
there. I kind of had a day.
You did indeed.
Yeah, you got me mesmerized by your gun neck in the background there.
Yeah, no. I can't focus. I'm just watching.
Hey, Joel, go watch my Deserted Island Challenge video that I put up today or last night.
Oh, really? Okay.
Unlike any you've ever seen. I promise you.
Please do watch that one. It's great.
Yeah, I've been pretty much been out and
excellent video
doing stuff. So rock on, man.
Highly recommended.
I took it to a new level.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
We were talking about mic drops. That's another mic drop moment right there with the Lyndon.
Is there any sharks in this video?
Hey, we don't want to spoil it. Just go watch it.
Okay. I'm just saying. I'm thinking there might be a shark in this video. I don't know.
There could have been one close by, but I wouldn't.
Yeah.
All right. So that brings up. So your Deserted Island video. We all need to go check it out. Sounds awesome. And that brings up one more question that it just popped into my head. Would you, if you had a chance, go down in a shark cage to view great whites in the ocean? Jason, yes or no?
No, I say no.
Dad Racer?
No.
Lyndon, I saw you shaking your head. No, man.
No, thanks.
Yeah, that's okay.
I would have to. I would have to try it, man.
Yeah. Thrill seeker.
I like the merry-go-round and not the roller coaster, man. That's just my style.
All right, so that's
man. More power to you.
Yeah, and my wife said that she would tell me to have fun and wait for me. So
yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, that's a good way to wrap this video up. So you guys, thanks for coming in and providing some good choices, good picks. And so thank you guys also for tuning in and watching and taking time out of your day to watch this video. Appreciate it. So you guys have a good and a safe rest of your day.
Thanks very much.